always welcome to bring in your own food. Arnold's Tavern in the heart of Havelock.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful.
I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sure. Sutter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SutterHeyman.com.
You don't think about your roof very often, but you should never take it for granted. Roofing Service Company takes every measure to provide you with the highest quality roofing solution. Whether it's a new roof installation, roof repair, or a re-roofing project, their overall goal is to provide you with a pleasant experience and a long-lasting roof. If you have a need for siding or gutters, they're your place too. Visit roofingservicecompany.com for more info today.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, we'll see lots of sunshine, but lots of warmth too. We'll see a high of around 93. Tonight, we'll see a chance of showers and storms in the low of around 67. And tomorrow basically looks like a repeat of today with more sunshine in the forecast, but getting lots of storms late in the day tomorrow. We'll see a high of around 92. Meteorologist Kyle Tucker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in to the Corner 3, taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Orman.
Welcome to it, the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com, and all over the place. You got it on the app for your phone. It's free. Download it. Big things coming there. Get it now. Get used to it. Get ready early because, again, big things coming with it this fall. Also on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and, of course, Allo Channel 951. 402-464-5685 if you have any college basketball-related questions. We are going to stick as much as we can to college basketball tonight. Have had plenty of time today to dissect everything going on out in Evanston with Pat Fitzgerald and the Northwestern football program, baseball program, about to be thrown into that conversation as well under Jim Foster. But the goal for this next hour is to focus it on college basketball. Of course, though, being inspired by what's going on out in Evanston, Matt and Landon will join me shortly. I tasked them with something different. With the scandal going on out at Northwestern, I thought, why not take a look back at some college basketball scandals? There have been plenty. There are plenty different of flavors, I guess, of scandals, as you might call them, in college basketball. The guys let me know what they have cooked up, but just know we will be talking some college basketball scandals. Probably not a shock, the one that I came up with. It does relate, of course, to Tobacco Road, that kind of triangle out there. And if that doesn't give it away, stay tuned for next segment. Before we get into the scandals, though, before we bring Landon and Matt into the show, I want to go over Peach Jam a little bit. Peach Jam down in Georgia, one of, if not the largest AAU tournaments in the nation. Probably essentially summer meetings for college coaches. Every college coach, or at least every college program, passes through Peach Jam at some point. It's where all the best players, go to play over the summer. The biggest tournament hosted, I believe, in the Atlanta area. So it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal if you perform well, you perform poorly out at Peach Jam. And this year's show was really stolen by three players. The first one, who's still a couple years away from college, AJ DeBanza. He'll be playing his high school ball, I believe, at Premier. So Prolific Prep. Sorry, yeah, Prolific Prep is the one. He put on a show. He got buckets up and down the court, averaged 25.8 points per game across 5 games, scored 30 twice, and he was even playing up. So playing a year ahead of his classification, he ended up dropping those 26 points per game, which is incredible. But he's still a couple years away from college basketball. Really, the headlining stars of Peach Jam this year were Cooper Flagg and then the Boozer twins. We'll start with the Boozers because you might know that last name. Carlos Boozer played at Duke, went on to have a solid NBA career. He has twin sons that are in the 2025 recruiting class, so they won't be there in college in 2 seasons. Well, I guess not this next season or the 24 season, but that next season. The twins are Cameron Boozer and Caden Boozer. Cameron's the number 1 overall player in the class right now. 6'9", 215, a versatile type of forward. Has the ability to stretch it outside, physical type of presence. He's been the number 1 player in the class for quite some time down there at Chris Columbus High in Miami. It was a good weekend for Cameron Boozer. Again, 6'9", 215, 15.5 points, 11 rebounds, and 4.7 assists per game as a forward. Just incredible numbers. The Knight Riders is the team that they play on. The 16U bracket, they won for the 2nd year in a row. His twin brother, Caden, though, was the one that took over in the final game. He's a 6'3", 190-ish pound point guard. Again, they go to the same school, but play different positions. So the Boozers are highly sought after. Cameron is the top-rated player in that class. Caden, though, the Peach Jam MVP and rated 13th in the class. They did say recently that they're absolutely not Duke locks, that they're going through the process. They might go to the same school, they might not. They're gonna take the recruiting process all the way through to its end, right? See everything they can about as many campuses as they're allowed to visit and pick the best place for them individually, right? They're not necessarily a package deal and not necessarily Duke locks. I still tend to believe they would be Duke leans. I would like to think, I know Carlos Boozer still has ties back to the program. And really it comes down to, I would think, Jon Scheyer not falling flat on his face, right? We've seen Jon Scheyer's recruiting ability for 8-9 years now. I forget exactly when he joined the Duke staff, but ever since he was added to Mike Krzyzewski's staff, he's been one of the lead recruiters. From Chicago, he was a big part of getting Jahlil Okafor to Duke, but we saw Duke not miss a beat in recruiting with Mike Krzyzewski gone. Jon Scheyer's first class, did only reach the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament, but still did work on the recruiting side of things. And more often than not, that leads to good results. So I would still say the Boozers are a Duke lean, but absolutely not, counting them before they're officially in the Duke basketball barn. The other guy I mentioned that really took over Peach Jam, you might have seen some of his highlights, maybe an Instagram or Twitter post about him, and that's Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg playing for Maine United. Yes, Maine, the state of Maine, not a hotbed of basketball talent. Cooper Flagg put on an absolute show at Peach Jam. Across the same, I believe, 5 or 6 games, Cooper Flagg goes for 25.5 points, 13 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and 7 blocks per game. He also had 2 triple-doubles. The triple-doubles, though, were with blocks. Not even with rebounds or assists, with blocks. Just insane. It's not like Cooper Flagg is, some Victor Wembanyama level physical prospect with his height. No, Cooper Flagg's 6'8", 200. Similar size to Cameron Boozer, a little smaller. Still maybe working on the skill part a little bit, but to put up multiple triple doubles against, your age group is impressive. To do it with blocks, even more impressive. That's some like David Robinson, Tim Duncan quadruple double type stuff we just haven't seen, consistently in a long time. And Cooper Flagg doesn't have any real notable prospect on his team besides him. I even went back and looked, like maybe Maine is some sneaky basketball hotbed that I don't know about. It's really not. The only player on this list that I had heard of in men's basketball was Duncan Robinson. Yeah, Duncan Robinson of the Heat. Started in D3, went to Michigan, played his way up. He's one of them. The other one on the women's side is Mackenzie Holmes, who played at Indiana, had a really good career there. Unanimous first-team All-American this last year. So Maine, not exactly a basketball hotbed in terms of talent. And to see Cooper Flagg really put his main team on his back and carry them to the finals is impressive. Yeah, they lost to the Knight Riders, the Boozer twins in the finals, but just an absolutely incredible showing from him. And I learned today, thanks to an article I read about the recap, Cooper Flagg grew up a Duke fan. Do I need to say anything else? He's going to Duke. Okay, again, not going to count it till he's actually in the fold, but I feel very confident in Duke's chances to land Cooper Flagg. The one kind of detriment, maybe two, that I'll throw out there is UConn just winning a national title. Obviously, that would be closer to home playing in Storrs than it would in Durham, if that means something to him. But I tend to think that doesn't, given that Cooper Flagg is playing his high school ball down at Montverde Academy, Montverde down in Florida. So I would think that being away from home wouldn't necessarily bother Cooper Flagg. The other part of it comes down to a basketball aspect, and that's that as I look at this current Duke men's basketball roster, there's not really a guy like Cooper Flagg on it. There's not a scoring wing on it like Cooper Flagg has the ability to be. Probably the guy most similar to him is Mark Mitchell, and that's a stretch. Mark Mitchell, a terrific perimeter defender, moves his feet really well, picks the spots on offense. Cooper Flagg, I think, already is a better offensive player than Mark Mitchell is, and more of a weak side, help side type defender, more so than the on-ball defender that I'd classify Mark Mitchell as. So if another place has wings out there that they can point to a more defined role for, maybe they can sell Cooper Flagg on having that, but it's not like Duke hasn't had him in the past with your Jason Tatums, your Brandon Ingrams, even Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett to a degree, but I don't think that those are the exact type of players that I would, use to sell Cooper Flagg on in his role at Duke. Because especially if you mentioned the Boozers and Flagg being in the same class, that is something that obviously as a Duke fan I would enjoy, but even as just a basketball guy, seeing guys with that sort of positional flexibility where Flagg can play the 3 and the 4, Boozer 3 and the 4, maybe slide up to the 5 if he grows another inch or two as well. But to have that level of skill out on the wing that you can slide down to the block, that you can use in ball screen actions, the kind of horns action that Duke's really like to run recently, it's fascinating. Of course, programs all over the country are in on these guys. I know Kentucky's making a push for all those guys. UConn was spotted at Cooper Flagg's games as well. North Carolina, even in the mix, which it pains me to say. I'm not a fan of it, but it has to be shared, and it has to happen for North Carolina. That would be a huge boon for them to be able to steal a at least one of the Boozers out from under Duke. I mean, we know all too well in Nebraska that last name doesn't guarantee anything in sports in terms of getting guys to campus, but it sure as heck doesn't hurt. So a fantastic Peach Jam event. Definitely seeing some of the top talent in the country show out at that tournament. And you'll hear the names Boozer, Flagg, and Dabansa again in the years to come. All right, we're going to step aside right here. I'll bring in Landon and Matt. They are waiting patiently on the stream. Again, I tasked them with finding their favorite, might not be the best way to phrase it, but pick a college basketball scandal that sticks out to them. The scandal that sticks out to me, I'll give it away right now. I didn't know that there was such a thing as the Beach-A-Mid. I learned that thanks to them earlier this week. Long Beach State plays its games in a pyramid. No, just kidding. That's not actually the scandal that we're going to get into, but we'll break some college basketball scandals down when we continue here on the Corner 3.
You're listening to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. More college basketball analysis after this timeout.
General contractors, business owners, property owners. The success of your business requires doing business with the right people. And the right people when it comes to drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialty products are at Premier Drywall. Kevin and his crew will give your project the response and attention it deserves.
You'll get all of the attention to detail and quality that you would expect from someone who's been in the business for 30 years. For your new builds, build-outs, or renovations, reach out to Kevin. Kevin at PremierDW.com. Premier Drywall in Lincoln.
Are you ready to upgrade your combine? Don't wait. Act now to choose from the widest selection of used combines at Acres Equipment. Acres, the nation's largest John Deere combine dealer, is offering 2.9% interest for 60 months on over 100 pre-owned combines. Go to acres.com to view a huge inventory of low-hour, late-model John Deere combines. Find what you like, and we'll deliver it to your farm for free. Acres, solutions for every field.
If you're in Lincoln, Waverly, or the surrounding area, listen up. Select Plumbing gets it right the first time on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate at 402-560-6197. Plus, they're hiring service plumbers. If you're in Lincoln, Waverly, or the surrounding area, contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to O Street Carpet. Hi, I'm Steve Carper. Our flooring professionals can help you choose the best flooring for you, your family, and your budget. We eliminate the confusion. Even better, you'll be enjoying your new flooring much sooner. No 6 or 8 week waits. We'll install right away and save you money on installation. Floor shopping made easy every day at O Street Carpet.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
The Ticket Water Cooler.
Typically, you kind of think of Nebraska as far as in-state recruiting as might not get the skill position players, but you can pepper in some offensive linemen and maybe a linebacker here and there. This class is led by its in-state skill position players now. I mean, you thinking down the line, you could 3 or 4 years from now have Daniel Kalen lining up with Davon Holland, Isaiah McMorris, and now Carter Nelson. Those are all your skill positions.
Keeping the highly talented, highly ranked players that are in the state with you at the home state school is a step in the right direction.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Orman.
That's right. We're back here on the Corner 3, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Joined by the fellas, Matt and Landon. Guys, we'll jump into the scandals in just a sec, but we are here in early July, and there is more going on than anyone can keep track of. It is kind of insane, kind of ridiculous, and college sports just need to chill. I'm just going to say it. Chill out just a little bit.
Yeah.
We need a break.
The college sports news cycle is ridiculous right now. I mean, we probably won't even get into the new revelations in the Bob Huggins drama with West Virginia tonight. That probably is worthy of 15 to 20 minutes of discussion on its own. But while, you've had this whole Pat Fitzgerald situation happening at Northwestern, there's a whole other ordeal happening in Morgantown now. There is far too much happening for early July, and we all just need college football back, I think.
Yeah, all I have to say currently about West Virginia and the Bob Huggins situation is that anytime we're in a situation like this, the first thing that comes to mind is that no matter how this plays out, the biggest winner in the end will always be a lawyer. So and that certainly appears to be the case in this one.
That it does. Well, we've had plenty of lawyers involved in college sports for years. I'm going to lead us off with scandals. This one is, I would say, near and dear to my heart, but not as near and dear as I wish it could have been. And that's North Carolina men's basketball. Like, this is a slam dunk layup. I knew I was going to go with this one. For those who don't know, North Carolina ran paper classes. Like, all they had to do was turn their paper in, and they got an A. That's essentially what it was. There was very little actual academic rigor. It was essentially an independent study. Just write a paper on essentially whatever you want to do within a very wide scope, and you pass the class. Full credit hours, full everything. It's a joke. And this didn't just start, a few years ago. I think the resolution came out in 2017. I went back. There was a CNN report from 2014 on this whole scandal that says it even started probably 5 or 10 years before that. So this is a thing that was absolutely happening and absolutely tainted the Tyler Hansbrough national championship. I guarantee it. There are players on that team who weren't taking real classes at the time. That just happened. So this continued to happen and continued to go on with nothing being done, not even a slap on the wrist, until someone finally reported it. Rashad McCants was out there saying he got paid to essentially not go to class, right? It was simple. The podcast is out there. But the NCAA Committee on Infractions said that the classes disproportionately favored student athletes' enrollments. They had a recognizable positive impact on the GPAs, and that officials in the university's academic advising unit essentially colluded with the Afro-American Studies Department to benefit student athletes, but they got away with it because they let other non-athletes in the classes. If that's all it takes to get away with it, what are we doing? It's a huge sham. The championships are tainted. Get rid of them. This should have been like 4 years of postseason bans. I'm sorry. North Carolina got off easy, and it's because of the number and the name on the front.
I think North Carolina, punishment-wise, they got off easy. And part of that is probably financial reasons of, North Carolina is one of the big cash cows in college athletics. But they did still have to suffer. I think it's kind of sad to say in hindsight, but probably the biggest, penalty or punishment they faced was probably indirectly losing like Brandon Ingram to Duke for the 2016 year. Cause I remember he was kind of a Carolina lead, but then there was so much uncertainty for so long about, is Carolina going to get any sort of postseason ban or anything, that it did actually hurt their recruiting for a while. But then again, because there was no actual punishment, they were able to bounce back pretty quickly in 2016 and 17. Sure happened. But
it just seems like the biggest punishment, and you see this across the board with a lot of the blue blood schools, looking at Kansas as the other year. The only like punishment, quote unquote, they're getting is like uncertainty in recruiting and like, oh, maybe your like top 10 5-star won't commit and go somewhere else because he feels a little bit like thrown off because of some of this. Really, that's what it comes down to a lot at a lot of these places. And North Carolina, it didn't really end up mattering that much. They were quite literally not fulfilling the point of an academic institution. But who cares?
On being one. Like North Carolina thinks they could join the Big Ten with its academic rigor. Missouri football had something similar going on. They self-reported, they got rid of the class, and they got a postseason ban. North Carolina just got we'll get a 5-star next year, to your point.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Rosa Parks paper from this scandal?
It sounds familiar. Fill me in.
It is one of the funniest things. I just looked it up when Austin started talking about it. I don't remember which player, but an athlete wrote a 1-paragraph paper, and it even says at the top, it says AFAM 41 final paper.
Oh, wow.
And the next line, Rosa Parks, my story. And then it is 1 paragraph, and they got an A- on it.
Wow. It's funny. There are quotes in this paper. I don't know if they're historically accurate or not. This is man, that is bad.
It is. Whenever I think of the scandal, that's what I think of is the Rosa Parks paragraph.
Gosh, I completely forgot that existed, but that goes to prove the point. That's a final paper that's 146 words long. You get an A- in the class. It frustrates me. The other one before I throw it to you guys that will always crack me up. It was a non-scandal. Michael Avenatti.
Oh my God.
This guy, very, very famous kind of celebrity lawyer, attorney of some sort, came after Zion Williamson after his freshman year at Duke and saying, it was pay for play. Duke paid him like $50,000, gave his mom a house and a job, went to court, and basically, I think it was a court in New York, just said, dude, you're just doing this for attention. They didn't do anything wrong. There are no receipts, no paper trail. There's no actual evidence that any of this ever happened. You are literally trying to make something out of nothing for your own name. Get out of here. Oh, and now he's in prison. So there's that non-scandal. Thanks, Michael.
I remember I was in the DN newsroom when all this broke with Avenatti. I didn't even want to, I thought about it, I was like, do we want to bring up the whole FBI scandal and how absurdly off the rails that got? It's one of those things where when we look back like 10, 15 years from now, it'll be hilarious. But I remember Avenatti this morning. He rose to fame through all sorts of stuff, but I remember it was like the Stormy Daniels lawyer against Trump. And then he goes on this big rant about, oh, I've got Nike right where I want them, and he's tweeting all of this. And then the final tweet is just, and Duke, ... It is still up. You can look it up. One of the funnier tweets. And then I remember less than an hour later, he got arrested.
Literally.
For extortion. It was like, yep, you don't mess with Nike. It took less than an hour. It was like he's threatening Nike and one of their bigger, cash cows, and they shut that down right away.
It was
never heard that Andy was about.
Right, because there's nothing there. Thank you, Michael. Landon, I just noticed your incredible UTSA hat. First of all, how is San Antonio? Second of all, what's your scandal you got for us?
Yeah, San Antonio was wonderful. Great city. The Riverwalk is really cool. I had never been before we traveled down there, and it's very hot, very humid. I learned that quite quickly. San Antonio in July is not super pleasant. I don't know, if I was probably shouldn't have expected anything different. But the Riverwalk is really cool. Like there aren't really very many places in America that are sort of like that, with obviously a downtown area. But it's so funny because you have like the street side facing of all these buildings, and then the same buildings but just lower down on the river. It's really cool. Tons of great food. Breakfast tacos, of course, were fantastic. The Tex-Mex cuisine in San Antonio is incredible, and a very neat place. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And we saw the Alamo, which is also cool. Very historical building there. Learned a lot of good old American history there. Did not know that is where Davy Crockett ultimately passed away, was in that battle. So there you go. Piece of history for you.
College basketball history.
Yeah. For the scandal, I mean, I could talk about Oklahoma State. That would probably, my thoughts there would probably be a little bit too unhinged, speaking on as part of the FBI investigation that got off the rails. Oklahoma State was definitely a casualty of that. But I went more off the grid and obscure, because this afternoon I was, perusing the internet, and I came across a list on Wikipedia, actually, which, reputable or not, whatever. But of the most vacated games, total number of vacated games in the history of college basketball, I don't know who I was expecting to be at the top. Probably like a Louisville or a Memphis, just based on like my knowledge of recent college
Kentucky's probably up there.
Yeah. But the top school was Northern Colorado. I was like, okay, I've got to dig into this and figure out why Northern Colorado is at the top of this list. So they do top the list with 153 total vacated games, which occurred between the year 2010 and 2015. All of their games from this time period were vacated. Every single one of them. And it is on a similar line to the North Carolina scandal, but as a bit of backstory here. So in 2010, then head coach, then former assistant Northern Colorado coach, BJ Hill, was about to embark on this great journey. He was an assistant at Northern Colorado for 3 seasons under former head coach Tad Boyle, who has been at Colorado since leaving NOCO after the 2009-2010 season. They went 25-8. Hill, who was an assistant for a couple of years, was promoted to head coach. And it was his first coaching gig at the Division I level. And it started really well. So his first season in charge, that first season in 2010, 2011, after they went 25-8, Northern Colorado goes 21-11. They go 13-3 in conference. They make the NCAA tournament as a 15 seed. They lost, but pretty good, all things considered, for his first season. But in doing some research, I found multiple great articles about this. But according to a CBS affiliate in Colorado, Hill was feeling a lot of pressure to live up to sort of this standard that Boyle had set. He wasn't there for very long, but I guess he just felt really compelled to win. So as one does when trying to match expectations set by a predecessor, you have you and your staff complete coursework for players, pay for prospects classes, and arrange for off-campus practice sessions with an academically ineligible student athlete. The TLDR is that BJ Hill was recruiting players to Northern Colorado that were not even close to being academically eligible, and having him and his staffers and trainers take classes for these people, pass them, pay for these classes so that players could play. It's pretty incredible. An article from the Greeley Tribune says that Hill coerced an athletic trainer to complete work for a biology course that the trainer thought was for the benefit of one of Hill's family members, but it was actually for a player. He directed members of his staff to pay for 11 online courses for members of his team and shelled out nearly $7,000 in impermissible recruiting benefits. Yeah, not good at all levels.
Wow.
They were just taking classes from players. He had assistants, GAs, athletic trainers. Like I said, everyone was in on this act. They got hit with 9 violations in total and 8 level 1s from the NCAA. They did self-report, which in the NCAA report says that kind of saved a lot of face for Northern Colorado because they could have been much worse off had they not done that. It sort of sounds like, from all that I gathered, Hill was a rogue actor in this instance, and the university really didn't have much clue as to what was going on. They did ban themselves from the 2016-17 postseason. Hill was fired and the entire coaching staff. And the other few things to note, they had to return all the money for its appearance in the 2011 NCAA tournament, which is kind of a low blow. But mostly it was just vacation of wins from all of the games in which those ineligible student athletes participated, which was 2010 through 2015. And my favorite part, I think, in all of this is that Northern Colorado was also really bad during this time period after that first year. In which it made the NCAA tournament, which, using some context clues, could be argued that it was a lot of Tad Boyle's recruits and players that did that heavy lifting. They had just one winning record in the last 5 years of Hill's tenure. So they made the NCAA tournament the first year. Then they only had one winning season after that, which was an 18-14 season in 2013-14. Included in that are a 9-19 season and a 10-21 season. So not only did Northern Colorado cheat and have, a UNC type taking, academic fraud, they also were bad. Like, how are you going to cheat and then also just be a bad basketball team? So really tough scene for Northern Colorado. I learned a great deal. It was awesome to get into it and read a little bit more. And also BJ Hill was levied a 6-year show cause by the NCAA that started December 15th, 2017 and ended December 14th, ends December 2023. So BJ Hill could almost coach a college basketball program again. Should whoever, want to get into that mess. But yeah, that's what I learned about Northern Colorado basketball. It's a little off the grid, but I had fun. I had fun digging into that a little bit more because it really is just a wild, absolutely throwing aside of NCAA rules and regulations. You almost have to respect it, but then you can't because of how bad they were. So that's what I brought to the table.
I respect the amount of coursework that the staff did for those guys. That's incredible. Somebody needs to hire that man, maybe as an academic advisor or something. I wonder what he's been up to. Is he in the NBA or something? I can't find much. There's a Buffalo Bills player with the same name as him. So I haven't found anything on what he's currently up to.
You look at this guy and he looks like the type of guy that would do something like that. Like absolutely. He has that kind of smug grin on his face. He just looks like the type of guy yeah, we'll do that. But what parent wants to do their kid's homework, let alone a basketball coach do his players' homework? You leave school for a reason, and it's not to do more school.
These poor GAs were not paid enough money. That's what I have heard. And these assistant coaches, that is just a ridiculous amount of school that they had to do. I really can't believe that's just so much work.
I have found his Twitter account. In his bio, it says recovering college basketball coach. And he's fairly accurate. He does a lot of quote tweets and things like that. Not accurate.
My favorite thing, I pulled up the NCAA's report on it, and the third paragraph is a North Carolina-esque paragraph. It's one sentence long. It says, the panel commended Northern Colorado for its exemplary cooperation throughout the processing of this case. Good job, Bears.
The other thing I found since you brought this up is apparently one of those wins they vacated, they did win at Kansas State to open the 2013-14 season, which K-State was a tournament team that year with Bruce Weber. So They did have one nice win in that time.
That's a sucky one to give back.
Yeah, they won in the Octagon of Doom.
I did look it up too. That team that beat Northern Colorado in the NCAA tournament was 2-seeded San Diego State. They beat Northern Colorado, they beat Temple, and they ended up losing to UConn. That team, San Diego State, led by 3 future NBA players: Jamal Franklin, Malcolm Thomas, and sophomore Kawhi Leonard, who averaged a double-double that year. He's a part of history.
Yeah, I remember that UConn San Diego State game was pretty awesome. I always forget that San Diego State was a 2-seed that year, though.
Yeah,
They
those teams are something else. That was the peak of the Mountain West there with them, and then like Jimmer and BYU being also really good. That was a great time to be alive.
Really
ends up 74-67. UConn wins. UConn led, of course, by Kemba Walker. 36 in that game. Jeremy Lamb had 24. If I said the name Alex Oriaki, I think we both immediately know who that guy is. Roscoe Smith and UConn legend Tyler Olander.
Yeah, I remember that team vividly. They took out Kentucky in the Final Four that year. That was another and that was the dreaded Houston Final Four where just nobody. It was. Yeah, nobody scored. It was terrible. So, yeah, that was San Diego State or Northern Colorado could have stopped that.
Landon, thank you for that look into Northern Colorado. That was absolutely incredible. Well done.
Of course. I try my best. Thank you.
All right, Matt, where are you going?
All right. Well, I think it's kind of crazy that, we're talking about we each got to pick our favorite college basketball scandals, and all 3 of us have ended up picking academic scandals, like the most boring type of scandal that we have in this sport. But all 3 are well deserved for both either their impact or just the sheer interestingness of what went down. But before I get into mine, I do want to shout out some other ones. Louisville. Plenty to go around, but the strippers in the dorm room was one that happened. A lot of that can't be discussed on the radio anyways. And I did see, how on your For You page on Twitter, sometimes you get those suggested threads or something of you'll never believe this.
Yeah.
I got one of those it was you'll never believe how this team used to cheat to recruit in college basketball, and it was a picture of Rick Pitino and the Louisville mascot. And I looked through it, and they missed half the good stuff, but do some research on that one. Also found it funny that I can't remember the recruit's name, but I remember he was one of the guys caught up in the FBI scandal. He committed to Louisville, and Rick Pitino was like, yeah, I got this 5-star and barely had to do anything. And then it turns out Adidas was paying him a bunch of money to go to Louisville. So Louisville's had some hilarious ones over the years. In a more serious note, the Baylor one with Dave List before Scott Drew got there. That's another bad one. Kentucky's had a slew of scandals over the year. They had the death penalty for a year in the 50s and for point shaving. And were kind of one of the big reasons why the NCAA tournament wasn't played in Madison Square Garden for over 50 years until the 2010s. Kentucky also was on a 4-year postseason ban at the end of the 80s and early 90s for all sorts of cheating under our mutual coach, Eddie Sutton. Kentucky's had their scandals too, but I'm going to go with one that I found out about it would have been last year, that just kind of blew my mind of the sliding doors effect of it all. And that's the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So in the 1990s, I think it was 1986, Minnesota hires this guy named Clem Haskins. He actually was one of the first African-American athletes, one of 2 that broke the color barrier for Western Kentucky University. So he grew up in Kentucky, played basketball at Western Kentucky. They were pretty good back in the 60s. They actually almost made a Final Four, I think, when he was there. I found out doing some research. And then he became a coach at Western Kentucky and was good enough that Minnesota hired him in 1986. And he was really good at Minnesota. He made an Elite Eight in 1990. They made the 1997 Final Four. And then which was, I think, that's their only Final Four. Again, another random thing that Minnesota was in a Final Four not that long ago, really. And then they also won the NIT over Penn State in 1998. So he was, for a program that's been around for like 120, 30 years, whatever, he was their second all-time winningest coach after just 13 years, I believe. And they were 1999. They're having an okay year. They were 17-10, got a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. And the day before the tournament starts, the St. Paul Pioneer Press breaks this story about how there's this academic advisor, her name's Jan Gangeloff, who claimed to write do over 400 assignments for Minnesota basketball players over the last 5 or 6 years, for 18 players, from 1994 to 1998. The reaction to this was kind of similar to what we just saw with Northwestern, in that I kind of forgot that wrestler and actor Jesse Ventura was once the governor of Minnesota, but he came out and called it sensational journalism. People were mad that this came out the day before the NCAA tournament. And basically what happened was then they had to suspend 4 players, including 2 starters, for indefinitely. And their first game was against 10th seeded Gonzaga. They end up losing the game 75-63. Then Gonzaga upsets Stanford. And then they upset 6th seeded Florida in the Sweet 16, who also got a break because North Carolina got upset by Weber State. So then Gonzaga makes it to the Elite Eight to play UConn. And this is 1999. So that was the UConn team that cost Duke, one of Duke's best teams of all time, a national title. UConn wins actually a pretty close game over Gonzaga. That was like their first bit of success, this Cinderella run. And it was all started because Minnesota did not have, because of the scandal breaking the day before the tournament, and they just happened to be playing Minnesota. So then there's a huge, huge investigation by the NCAA. Once again, I think they commended Minnesota for just their cooperation, as the NCAA does, as is tradition. The NCAA
Kansas didn't get commended.
So basically, then Clem Haskins is forced to resign in June. And so it's the middle of June, kind of hard to find a basketball coach. And Minnesota decides, why don't we just hire Gonzaga's basketball coach? And they hire Dan Monson in the middle. I think it was in July, actually. So then Gonzaga's without a coach. And it's like, well, we just had this big miracle run, and now we lose our coach, not in the middle of the offseason. What we're going to do, we'll just promote Mark Few to be our new head coach. What could go wrong? And so basically, now Mark Few is still he built his Gonzaga empire. It would have probably happened eventually, but he built it. It all started because of this academic scandal. Haskins, another funny bit on this, his contract was bought out for $1.5 million. But then after, more of the investigation came out, they found out that he was paying Gangeloff, the advisor, $3,000 to do this, which honestly, she could have charged more for what she was doing. And to keep these players eligible and to get them to a Final Four, that probably that did make the University of Minnesota a lot of money. And just like Northern Colorado, they had to give back all of their NCAA tournament appearance money for that. And Haskins also got, I believe, a 6-year show cause penalty. Actually, no. Haskins was actually until 2007. So it was, 7 years. And then he just retired. He's still alive. He's 80 years old. He pulled a Bill Moose and is on a ranch in Kentucky. So he got out of it. Don Munson didn't really have the best career at Minnesota. Mark Few has done pretty well for himself at Gonzaga. So that's just one of those crazy sliding doors moments of, a scandal for just a random college basketball team that, kind of changed the landscape of college basketball and took Minnesota from they were kind of the Wisconsin of the Big Ten in the 90s, where they were a top 4 team every year, and with a couple of deep tournament runs, and they were in the cellar for pretty much all of the 2000s after that scandal. So that's what I think.
These 6 and 7 year show causes are absolutely incredible. Like, you think of a 1 and like a 5 maybe, but to both your guys' scandals have 6-year show causes. That's insane. That's so much time.
It must be because academics have to be a little easier to, there's so much of a paper trail with it that it's a lot easier to catch and, enforce than, paying players or things like that.
Right. A couple honorable mentions. I'm kind of surprised none of us went after Derrick Rose failing his ACT 3 times and having someone else take it for him. And we mentioned one Rick, but Rick Stansbury's entire existence. Like, the man spells his last name with $signs instead of S's.
He's still going. He just got he got like a 25-year-old basketball player from Louisiana, Jordan Brown, I think his name is, to commit to Memphis. So it's like we haven't really pinned that much to him either yet.
Which is insane. Like, it's perfect that he's at Memphis now. Like, Rick Stansbury absolutely belongs at Memphis. I'm okay with throwing Memphis State on the uniforms this year just because Rick Stansbury's back. Like, let's just do that. Good stuff there, guys. I'm going to keep you around because you are the actual journalists, the ones that actually do hard work. I know you from your time at the Daily Nebraska, and that's where we cross paths. You guys doing actual reporting, me just kind of hanging out in the background. So we do want to save some time for everything going on at Northwestern, and shout out the Daily Northwestern. So stick around. We'll do that to wrap up Corner 3 next.
You're listening to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. More college basketball analysis after this timeout.
Spring is here, and it's time to wake up Judson. Judson Irrigation is eager and ready to get your sprinkler system up and running for the season. Judson's technicians will check for winter damage, adjust your sprinkler heads, and show you how to set your controller for effective sprinkling coverage. The Judson Irrigation team is here for you. Stay safe.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
Air and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Sunday morning. It's quiet, not in a weird, too quiet way. Calm, peaceful, tranquil. You pour yourself that cup of coffee. You slice yourself a hearty chunk of one of Beatrice Bakery's breakfast breads. Now, maybe you're an apple streusel guy. Nothing wrong with that. I can respect that. Personally, I'm a turtle nut man. Something about those pecans. But the real ones know, don't sleep on that date nut bread. Sweet, but not too sweet. Nutty, not overly. The perfect morning treat. Beatrice Bakery. Online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
Hey, CNC machinists, do you feel like you're in a dead-end job with your boss hovering over your shoulder? That's so annoying. Not at Garner Industries. We provide the opportunity and trust our CNC machinists to bring the talent. I'm Bob Williams, HR Director at Garner Industries, and we're looking for new team members in our CNC department. At Garner Industries, you'll work in a clean, climate-controlled, and safe environment with team members who want to see you succeed. You will also enjoy 4-day work weeks, great benefits, and a positive working culture. Interested? Apply on our career page at garnerindustries.com.
Too many people believe that chronic pain, allergies, or illness are permanent and something you're stuck with. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness has been proving that narrative wrong for 29 years and changing lives for the better in the process. Their team is trained in the newest, most advanced pain-relieving techniques and ways to deal with toxins, allergies, pollution, and emotion that make you ill. Call today for a free consultation at 531-254-5695 or go to novotnynutritionandwellness.com. Novotny Nutrition and Wellness, located at 7th and Superior.
Are you working in or looking to get into the electrical construction industry? The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Smoked meats, amazing sides. The only problem when they fix you a plate is that at some point, that plate will be empty. But hear me out. What if that plate was never empty? That dream can be your reality with the Mary Ellen's Express Lunch Buffet. From 11 to 2 every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday. One price, all you can eat, and it even comes with a drink. Tell your boss you're taking a long lunch and get down there. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake. Let them fix you a plate.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Coppell Chevrolet GMC, and our Independence Day sale is underway with some great savings. Get 0.9% interest rates and a trade-in bonus on select new models. You heard right, 0.9% interest rates going on at Coppell. In addition, we didn't want to leave out our pre-owned inventory, so right now on all pre-owned cars, get $1,000 for bringing us your trade, and that's right, get $1,000 off any pre-owned car you trade in. So stop by in the store or at CoppellCars.com. You'll be glad you did. All deals with approved credit.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend. Back to the corner three on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Orman.
Back one final time before we get you over to Heart of a Husker with the captain himself, Kershawn Jackson. He'll be there at 8 or shortly thereafter. A couple other scandals came to mind during the break. I think of Kelvin Sampson, who made a bajillion phone calls and then proceeded to lie about it. And everyone's favorite, Bruce Pearl, is a guy I can't believe we mentioned.
Yeah, that was one that as soon as we got off, went to commercial, I couldn't believe I forgot about it. I mean, everyone likes to talk about the barbecue with Aaron Kraft, but the one I'm going back to is from the late 80s when Bruce Pearl was an assistant at Iowa, and he was recruiting.
Bruce Pearl was at Iowa? That's a scandal in of itself.
Yeah, he was an assistant coach at Iowa. He was really young at the time. He would have been in his late 20s, so about our age, actually. And so he was in a recruiting battle with Illinois for this top prospect named Deion Thomas from Chicago. Basically, Deion Thomas eventually picks Illinois, which makes sense. They were on a roll back then. I think they had just came off a Final Four appearance. And so he calls Deion Thomas after the fact and secretly records a phone conversation with Thomas asking him, did Illinois give you an SUV in cash? Like, did they offer you an SUV in cash to come to Illinois? And Thomas's version of this was pretty much saying, yeah, I like to get him off the phone. I said yes. So then Pearl takes this and then sends these copy of the tapes to the NCAA and pretty much snitches on Illinois. The NCAA comes investigating. They make Thomas take a polygraph test where he denied the accusation, and it turned out he passed it. So the NCAA did not find Illinois guilty of any wrongdoing, but because they were snooping around, they found a few other things, and eventually Illinois the next year did get a 1-year postseason ban because Bruce Pearl was, snitching and recording tapes. And a little funny, epilogue to it is Deion Thomas then became an assistant coach for Illinois Chicago in the Horizon League when Bruce Pearl was coaching at UW Milwaukee. And the two they refused to shake hands every time they played because in Thomas's words, he said, it's hard to forgive a snake. So
yeah.
And I also remember as a child, Bruce Pearl did take UWM Milwaukee to the Sweet 16, and they faced that awesome Illinois team that we were talking about last week. They got blown out, but Bruce Pearl needed extra security because, I mean, the game was played in Chicago, and Illinois fans did not forget about the snitching. So just another kind of hilarious college basketball story that people forget about.
Less incredible, less college basketball, to your Chicago point. Northwestern, everything going down there. We had the internal investigation, but a lot more came out thanks to student journalists. And I won't put myself in that boat. I did so little of that, but you guys have been there. So how do you take the Daily Northwestern breaking all this news and, helping lead to the firing of Pat Fitzgerald?
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to this, Austin, but myself and Matt and you wouldn't all be here, have the platform we have, all of these things without student journalism. Obviously this is a college basketball centric show, but the crux of this whole argument, what's going on at Northwestern, is student journalism based, which is a topic that the three of us hold very near and dear to our hearts. Obviously, we all three worked at the Daily Nebraskan. And what I'll say is this: what's happening there is obviously a very complex and delicate situation. And still there's probably a ton that will be reported and come out. But as and I was once, I still am, I'm 23, but as an 18, 19, 20-year-old college student and college journalist, to have your name and your reporting be so frontward facing like that on a story of that magnitude is very, very scary. I can only imagine, all the anxiety and doubt and worry that has gone along with, some of this reporting tackling now former, I guess, Northwestern football head coach Pat Fitzgerald's culture within the football program. And to that, I can only commend him. So kudos to what's been going on over there. The Medill kids are an interesting bunch, as Matt and I, and maybe also you, Austin, have seen.
I went to Evanston. I broadcasted next door to him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, at home games. They generally all wear suits. They sit in a big row of 6 or 7 of them. They always bring a lot of people because I covered the Nebraska Northwestern famous 50 whatever it was to 7 beatdown a couple of years ago now at Memorial. And yeah, I have vivid memories of all those guys just sprawled out. But regardless, kudos to them for what they did. It's not easy. And big win for student journalism today.
Yeah, I'd say so too. The thing that I also have been thinking about a lot this week is they're doing this in July, all of this work and investigating. I don't know if the 3 reporters and whoever else has been helping them are doing summer classes or if they're just on break around internships or something. But I know for the Daily Nebraskan, we were kind of light in the summer. I would go to Big Ten Media Days if it was in Chicago, but that was kind of it for stories, really. So, I mean, props to them for, staying vigilant even when they're going. And I echo all the stuff about them being weird and, a little bit annoying. They always talk nonstop during games and we're cracking jokes and stuff, even though it's kind of nice when it's quiet. It was always tough if you were sitting by the Medill guys, but honestly, just props to them for, doing such a good job. Cause I mean, if you mess this up and, you get something wrong and it tarnishes the reputation of your student newspaper. It can affect, future donations, especially when there's so much money in their journalism program. If they didn't do this right, that could have risked future donations and, just their reputation as a whole. So props to them. I mean, I kind of usually mock, journalists patting other journalists on the back, but in this case, it's warranted.
Absolutely. Matt Landon, thanks as always for your time. Great work on the scandals. Fingers crossed we have some resolution on Huggins we can talk about next week because, my goodness, there has to be something coming out of that. So once again, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. For Matt and Landon, I am Austin. That'll do it for this edition of The Corner 3. Thanks for tuning in. Not done with ticket weeknights just yet. We've got the captain, Rashawn Jackson. He's coming up next. Heart of a Husker, don't go anywhere. VJ, your way, next.
This is Bud Seinhorst, President and CEO of LIBA, the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket for the LIBA Business Hour, as we discuss local business and highlight those who are thriving in the Lincoln area. It's the LIBA Business Hour, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. The home of Kansas City Royals baseball. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Are you ready to upgrade your combine? Don't wait. Act now to choose from the widest selection of used combines at Acres Equipment. Acres, the nation's largest John Deere combine dealer, is offering 2.9% interest for 60 months on over 100 pre-owned combines. Go to acres.com to view a huge